One car on my car wish list to buy, the Mercedes AMG GT. Now this car embodies a lot of things that I look for. I've spoken previously before how I love the 300 SL, and the AMG GT is obviously just a modern day evolution, but I guess that only really touches upon the style and the design of it. But for every flagship Mercedes iteration that they have had of the SL, I've loved. Those that have been around since I've been alive, obviously. So the first I saw of this was the Mercedes McLaren SLR. McLaren came together with Mercedes to create this big, brute, aggressive version of what was at the time a very tame SL model. And at the time it was the fastest car around the Top Gear track, and it always stuck out in my mind from then on. But it still had that similar profile of the 300 SL that I'd seen before, and so I immediately fell in love with that. But it was the fact it was a massive muscle car designed by Mercedes. So when the SLS came around, I was equally a massive fan of that. It was just this big, aggressive, clean looking version. And both the SLR and the SLS already had the gull-wing doors. So in 2014, when the AMG GT came out, I initially wasn't a big fan. Mercedes had moved away from their aggressive muscle car flagship model and gone to a smaller coupe. At the time, I was still quite young and was thinking, oh, what the hell's this? This doesn't follow the same line as the others. But it's grown on me, massively. At that time, I didn't know about the underpinnings of the car and how they kept the entire front end of the SLS underneath. To change the gearbox that had slow gear changes and change the whole rear axle of the car so that Mercedes flagship coupes were no longer just muscle cars, the luxury element. They were race cars or race coupes that would compete at that level and that price range. And that took me a while to realise, but I love it now. It's very near the top. I'd have to win the lottery, but it is near the top of my wish list. And I adore that car now. It's quite clearly purpose-built for a driver in mind. They're trying to make it enjoyable behind the wheel for a track and become a race car. Trying to compete, well, they said at the time that they're trying to compete with the 911. And especially in today's market, I think it's even more special that you can still go out there and get yourself a Mercedes flagship coupe with a V8 in the front of it. Most people obviously just flock towards the GTR version of the AMG GT. I'm not a massive fan, I just prefer the S and the C coupes that were initially came out. Obviously I'd take a GTR, but the GTR is obviously just track focused and allowed the designers and engineers to go wild with it for the market of rich people competing with other track toys. But I could be chatting out my arse. It could be a shocking car to drive. I've not driven one. I drive a white Fiesta and that's all I've ever driven, so